All right. Okay, hey, we're live with Wes Franks. Hey, what's up, Wes?
Hi, what's up, Why?
Not much. So today, this is Why We Roll, the tabletop game design podcast at the Stillfleet studio, and we are wrapping up our short series to celebrate the launch of Orbital Blues Month, and it's our first true mini series diving deep into one game and one style of indie TTRPG development. So, Wes, thanks a lot for helping round us out. And yeah, I mean, we have many other things to catch up on, so we won't only be talking, of course, about your upcoming game, F Infinity, Formula Infinity, which everyone should check out on BackerKit. If you're viewing live, that's something you can follow. If you're listening to the podcast, it is live right now, so you should head over to BackerKit and check out F Infinity. But in addition to sort of other topics we were chatting about before the show, and of course, your cool vampire game, Come On In. I did also want to say this does make a good final episode of this short series, because I remember when F Infinity was being discussed on the Plus One XP server, and it was this big moment of excitement. And I think it's always fun to see creative people add to each other's ideas and respond to calls, and sort of how Orbital Blues Month as a concept came together, and
hmm
your role in saying, like, what if there's a racing game, right? And throwing out some ideas. So I think for anyone who plays RPGs, you're probably a nerd. You might self-identify that way, and you might, if you're around our age, have played a game called F-Zero. So I'm really excited to go back. I'm not good at playing contemporary video games, but I did play the hell out of that one. So a number of things there I want to talk about. Your games, collaboration, and just
hmm
the joy of pretending to go really fast, even though you're sitting doing this. So Wes, thanks so much. Before I ramble on, do you wanna introduce yourself? Do you want to say a few words to just kind of just introduce yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, my name is Wes Franks. My pronouns are they, them. I do a lot of my game design and other stuff that I produce, whether it's like streams or interviews or video game photography or whatever. It's under Carry and Comfort. No affiliation with Dan Simmons or anything. I just really like alliteration. And I don't know, I like horror, and so that was kind of like an easy grab. I've been working in some way, shape, or capacity in the TTRPG industry since 2019. I got my start doing like APs and influencer stuff and like interviews and everything. And then I had just left the chef world and then came into like the tech world, and I had more time to stream, and I was streaming more often, but I was streaming video games. Came to TTRPGs, and eventually started writing my own stuff, started designing my own games, started writing stuff for other games, like the Gauntlet. I've written games that have been released with Plus One EXP through the RPG Zine Club. I was the head of RPG Zine Club for a solid, I think it was like around 14 months. And then I stepped back from the role so I could focus more on some in real life stuff. Life really knocks you around, especially nowadays with everything going on. I feel like I have to just say everything going on, and it's been that way since 2020 with all this going on. But yeah, uh, I have games called the most recent one is 86. It's a solo game about being a restaurateur, a former Michelin star chef, and you want to open your own restaurant. And it is about the troubles, the ups and downs, the hills and valleys, the people that you'll meet, the things that you'll experience, the things that you'll lose. I like to. The subtitle is a game about losing your passion. And I feel like it's something that a lot of people, especially in the restaurant industry, there's a massive amounts of burnout, there's a massive amounts of turnover rate, and there's people that are leaving it every day. And it's something that we take for granted. All of us take for granted the restaurant industry, but and so I wanted to write something about that. And it pairs nicely with my other game, This Old House, that I released with RPG Zine Club, which is about a house about home. It's about building a house. It's about building the land around it, building the family that lives within it and everything. And you build with a house of cards. And so I like solo games, but I also like you mentioned, I have Come On In coming out, Formula Infinity. We'll talk more about that. I wrote most recently with the Gauntlet, Dead Pilled, Scream style game where you play a bunch of Manosphere influencers and you're going to die by the end of the night, and you're being killed by a serial killer or slasher called the Blue Fairy. There's a lot of Pinocchio stuff. It was, I had a lot of feelings about I've lost friends to the Manosphere. I've seen a lot of stuff about the Manosphere, and so I wanted to write something really cathartic that people could play, and they kind of really like just have something fun, but also just lets you process a lot of feelings towards people that hate you, and they might even not really hate you. They just do it for a paycheck. And very much, if you're a fan of Bodies, Bodies, Bodies or Scream, it's right up your alley. But yeah, a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, this is one of the themes, talking to Zach Cox, Josh Domansky, Adam Good, and you about Orbital Blues, is that you've all also worked on just hella other games. So like a lot of just really prolific authors and collaborators, and have worked on a variety of systems. I do think a lot of your work, if I'm not mistaken, I think some themes that emerge are solo games that use 2d6 kind of PBTA adjacent mechanics, and games that use playing cards, which is very cool. I do think playing cards is a fun way, which I feel like is more and more being picked up, right, by designers to sort of organize information differently than a dice roll, and provide some thematics. It has one more level, right, of information there with the suit. There you go.
Absolutely. They're always within reach. Yeah.
Podcast listener, imagine Wes Franks holding a pack of playing cards. So I think these are all games we can touch on, and we can draw on your wealth of sort of knowledge about the industry. I did want to check in about the game we had you on to discuss last time, which is a really cool game that I know has evolved a bit, and maybe you can say some about its evolution. Come on in. So instead of kind of going way back into your history like we did last time, why don't we just pick up where we left off, talk about Come On In, and maybe you can remind folks kind of what the game is and tell us a little about where it is today. And this is really building on our conversation before and themes we've had on the show in general. How do you play test games, and how do you decide like when something is baked, especially when in your case you're a busy man and you have a lot of ideas. So this sounds like to me one of your bigger projects you've been working on for a longer time. So how do you sort of carve out time for it, decide it's baked, and adjust anywhere you want to take that, basically?
Yeah. So Come On In is a Southern Gothic mystery game where you play two state police detectives for the Louisiana State Police Department, going to investigate a ritual-style murder in the town of Bon Soleil, which is in the Terrebonne Parish, that is in southern Louisiana, coastal Louisiana. Bon Soleil is not a real place, but like the region where it takes place is very real. And so you play these two detectives that might be familiar with the area, or you might be a fish out of water and you're stepping into this place, trying to solve this murder, interacting with local townspeople, like town folk. You are trying to navigate the ins and outs of being a police officer in the 90s, where there is a lot of temptation to not do the right thing and to get the right thing done. One of the first quotes in the game is from True Detective Season 1, and it's, "The world needs bad men. We keep the other bad men from the door," which feels like a justification that you'll hear a lot of police officers use for the fact that like they need to act a certain way. And so this game, it uses the Car from Brindlewood mystery system for you to solve this mystery. It's for 2 players and then 1 keeper to run the game. It has a comprehensive like campaign framework that gives you all the details for like what you need to do, like the tools that you need to run this game. It has a full town with locations that have variations depending on how far along you've gotten into the campaign. Townspeople that may help you or hinder you depending on how you act. And something that's new that I added to it, like since we've talked to it, since it's changed, is I added a full comprehensive day-night cycle to it. There's a corruption tracker in it now. So instead of having the keeper just kind of narratively or find mechanical ways to negotiate the fact that your law enforcement officers are not adhering to the police code of ethics, there is now a mechanical way that follows the police code of ethics, so that if at any point the police officers break that and they get caught breaking it, it'll add a point to the tracker. And once that tracker's filled, well, all hell has broken loose. You've failed. You've sold out people and like normal citizens because of your own like whatever is driving you to be a corrupt police officer. I have a wonderful team of people. Since when we were last talking, I was kind of assembling people, and I was like trying to like sort out and figure out who we had like where, and we'd settle on some folks. And so now I have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful group of writers that have wrote cold case files and some other additional material, like Jack Hargreaves. There's Brian Miranda, who's an up and coming writer. Zachary Vaudo, who's done a lot with like a lot of different horror stuff. Woody Volkova, who is a miniatures war gamer, but also TTRPG enthusiast and everything. And Vin Vox. Got a bunch of people from all over the internet that have like a connection in one way or another to the themes that are going on in the game, whether it's vampires or it's the South, or they come from family that were like police officers, and it's a way for them to unpack things and talk through it and everything. We have a beautiful cover by Scraggins, who's a wonderful artist and digital artist. Jane Niley Butler is doing the interior art for it. The game is being laid out by my partner Brand Levine, with a design guide that we're following by Mike Martins, who is a like wonderful designer, layout designer, artist that's out in LA, who is a wizard with layout. And then the game truly hasn't it has hit its final form because of our editor Sarah Bowling, who is a wonderful editor, who has worked in like literature and has worked in TTRPGs with the Gauntlet and other people, who really understands the system. But she's really kind of either allowed me to trim things back because I felt like I needed to stuff too much into it, or she is given me the permission to expand on things because I felt like I shouldn't. I was rambling, and has like moved the biggest thing that she's really helped out is finding a way for the manuscript to flow. She's doing a full holistic editing, not just the dev editing, but the copy editing and everything. And it's been like really like one of those editors that I'm just like, I want to work with you forever. And that's a big thing, is like a good editor is really hard to find, somebody that really speaks to you and you can work with. And then we've got Joan Dark, who's doing the project management, and it's being published through Plus One Experience, and it hits crowdfunding in October 2026, the second week of October. I can confirm, because we don't want you to have to deal with your rent checks and everything when we collect all the months and everything like that. We're trying to think of the best ways to make this super affordable and everything like that. And so I can say it now, we're gonna have a quick start available at Gen Con, that is going to be text. It's going to be practically text, and there's going to be some design elements. It's going to be designed by Bran. It's going to be a 6x9 book, so it's going to be able to like lay flat on the table and everything. And so I really wanted to get the game in people's hands by Gen Con, so that they could like really kind of experience the game without all the bells and whistles and everything, so that when we go to crowdfunding, people know what they're getting into, and they know that they have a complete product that's going to be waiting for them within a year of hopefully, fingers crossed, if we're still here and international shipping lanes haven't been absolutely ravaged and everything like they have already. Yeah. But yeah,
we're all betting on that last bit. We all have products, fulfilling at different stages, and we're all pretty fucked if everything closes down. Assuming that all goes swimmingly, can't wait to get it. I'll definitely read the PDF. I mean, thankfully I've been able to read some of the early release material, and it is a very cool game, and we're going to talk more about it. Can you just out of curiosity tell us the format you're envisioning now that it sounds like Come On In has moved toward that level of product design out of pure game design? So what does it look like?
So I'm a big fan of magazines. More than just zine culture, like magazines. I grew up with magazines, whether it was like Electronic Gaming Monthly or Sports Illustrated or Good Housekeeping or anything like anything like that. But a big one was Fangoria. And since this game is such a blend of like horror but also detective, back in the day, back in the 1940s and 30s, they would have detective magazines that were short stories and like news blurbs and everything, that was like super big, like it's just like a super big magazine, that's like bigger than like most you would see most normal like standard magazine size, and
like
so
an A2, like a newspaper,
a new, like almost near newspaper size and everything like that. And like DC Comics had these Black Label comics that have come out that are that same size, and they have these beautiful embossed soft covers that like feel like velvet and everything. Particularly the Swamp Thing is really good. It's really sick. But I just became so enamored with that and the ability of it. And there's another game out there called Eat the Reich that has kind of like that workbook, like very like soft, but it lays flat on the table. And that was really important for me, was table play. I wanted this to not just be a thing that you looked at and read and it was like, ooh and ah and everything like that. It's a technical manual. It's something that needs to be available to you and the players if you need to be able to showcase it. So we are going to have our book in that exact same size. It's going to be soft cover, embossed. It's going to be lay flat open. There are going to be stretch goals, of course, that if you want a hardcover edition with all the stuff that we unlock, then you can get that as well. That is down the line and everything. I know a lot of people say you just need to have one book and that's the one book, but I'm sorry, I have to have my annotated like coffee table like version of the game for my shelf as well. But yeah, and hopefully if everything works out, we can also do some like suspect cards and like location cards and like just clue cards and everything so that you can have them. I really like the idea of having like a board that you can put up and you have the red yarn and everything. The mortar board, exactly. the Pepe Sylvia board. So like I wanted like, so I want a lot of that to be able to happen on the table, but also in a different place. And Billy Lingard has developed an online character keeper that will be available with the quick start so that you can have that kind of murder board experience, but digitally. So you can play it online. It's all been done through Google Sheets and everything like that. So you just copy the Google Sheet, the Google form and everything, or the CSV file, you copy it, you go ahead and you go ahead and unlock it, see what you can play and everything. And it's got mostly everything from the book in there so you can play it. I really want to make it super accessible to people.
Yeah. Well, I love that. I mean, in a couple points just to highlight that have come up in other interviews as well. It's like you want to go in with a product design baked because you want not just the game written, but also that sense of like, wait, what does this cost? And how much do I have to charge for it? Is it meant to be accessible or a super luxury book? We generally try to make things that are as accessible as possible, given how many pages is it? And yeah, to your point, it's like it's a manual. So how are people going to in a tactile sense use it versus again a luxury version that well you're paying $10 more, it's hardback, it's heavier, maybe that's the one you leave on the shelf. But it does also sounds like the cards may or may not happen, and that to me is really a hallmark of a lot of crowdfunding, especially these days with like everything in terms of bigger scale industry being in question, is you don't totally know going in, so you can plan a lot of that stuff's easy to make because you're using text and art you already have, putting it in a new layout. So I think it makes sense, and I'm really excited. That's one that I definitely want to pick up, even though I try to back a lot of stuff as PDF. I just don't have room for too many books, but this is one I really want. It speaks to a lot of things about, we've talked about in the last episode, my family's from Louisiana and I'm a huge vampire fan. And I think the fact you've taken these themes you like to explore and really focused on police corruption as like a way into this, it's True Detective, right? But it's more than that. It's your mythos as well. So I think it'll be cool. I'm especially excited if it's an oversized format, because I think that's really cool. Nobody does that shit, and I think it's rad. I think it's really rad to do newspaper scale work. I'm excited to see how your layout artist, approaches that and how you guys move information around.
I will tell you right now, there's going to be really thick margins. Those margins are going to be thick as hell. There's going to be a lot of marginalia. There's going to be plenty of room for you to write in the margins. It's going to be thick margins.
Love the thick
margins. That's the big reason why I wanted to go oversized, is because I was like, I don't want this to feel cramped. I don't want it to feel like you have to strain your eyes. I want you to see what's going on and everything. And Jane, like Jane's work, like the interior art and everything, like the whole layout design, the design guide was brought together with like Jane's art in mind. We used mock-ups from Jane's artwork, and we've really found a way to make it flow and fit. And like it really adapted from like, there's like even things from the cover from Scraggins that like shifted things in the text, like that, like it's really cool to be able to work with people that not only see your vision, but like you feel comfortable enough to let them go, to let them loose, and just let them like, I think a lot about like film. I think a lot about film a lot. And I think about a lot of these directors that are like very like tight gripped, and they're like, I have to have everything, and I have to be in the editing room, and I have to be with the sound mixing, and I have to know what it looks like in the camera, and I have to know what it looks like, sounds like with the composition of the score and everything. And it's the actors are like my props and tools that I move around with them. And then like, I think about like To Live and Die in LA, LA by William Friedkin, which was like uncharacteristically, he just let his collaborators go. He just said, I'm directing it, but like, you are the editor, you are the cinematographer, you are the director of photography, you are like I want to see how it looks through your eyes. I want to hear what it sounds like through your ears and everything. And I think that's really, really important in an industry that is so built around collaborative storytelling. I feel like the collaboration needs to be baked in from the very beginning, and you need to have people that you can rely on. That's a big thing, is having people that can come through.
Well, we've talked about these comparisons to cinema before, because there is swift trust, and that's something that, because a lot of creators, which again, totally cool if you're doing this, but are solo hobbyist kind of creators. They do everything themselves, or they're hiring out, and then they have total control because they're sort of the one person show. And then you have bigger companies, Sea of Wizards or whatever, and then in the middle you have companies, doing some of the work like we're doing, where you have to bring people together for a specific goal on a timeline, on a budget. And you can run over budget, and that sucks. You can try to nail your deadlines. You have to make your backers happy, the people paying for it in a way, which is kind of a cool part of crowdfunding to some degree, is, the individual player is the executive producer in that sense. But I think something you're raising is like, you want to work with editors, like just like in cinema, who know how to edit your story to tell it better. And like, cinematography, you want to work with layout designers who can frame the information well. And I'll tell you, like, I love working, for example, like with Tony Grasso for us on design, where, hey, can we cut one word, because then everything runs up on this page and it fits nicely.
Yeah.
And I think that's actually, like, you have to be willing to be like, yes, I will cut one word. Like, I know that I like my writing, but I also know that, like, it doesn't matter. I'm going to cut a word here, And I think, like, you have to find people who can tell you that in whatever way. So it's very cool you have these collaborators for both Come On In, and we're going to talk to F Infiniti, right? And I think some of your collaborators may even be lurking in the chat. Before we move off Come On In, you mentioned that the rules are pretty much baked, and I don't know if you want to say a little more about how that has evolved, because I do think when we last talked to you, you were in the process of changing them up, and you knew you wanted to go in a different direction. I know you said you added corruption. Is there anything else? It seems like the game overall is pretty much, the same story, and you fleshed it out more. But do you want to speak to that sort of mechanics question? And also, did that come out of playtesting? And can you tell us a little about how you decided, like, this is it. This is really hitting on all cylinders.
Yeah. There was a lot going on. A lot of it absolutely came out of playtesting. I was running a playtest for where a lot of the corruption tracker stuff came out. I was running a playtest for my partner Brand and friend and designer Daniel Qualls. And a big thing about me is I love pacing. And I love pacing in games, and it has to be the right pacing. And then that comes from like being in theater, and that comes with like working in kitchens, and that comes like, it's just been drilled into me my entire life. Of like, things need to have a good pace. It needs to have a steady rhythm. It needs to be able to flow. It needs to be able to have like, it needs to feel right. And if it doesn't feel right, then it's not good. It doesn't matter how it looks. It doesn't matter how it reads. It doesn't matter how much it costs. It doesn't matter how much like sensitivity editing you put into it and everything like that. It does not matter if it doesn't flow, because people are just going to bounce right off of it. And so having that play test which was like my second one, because the first ones I was just kind of play testing the first portion of the game and everything. And this one was going through the campaign. And there's a lot of adjustments in writing that I was doing on the fly, which I love doing. I love like being like, this is the final product, I'm done. And then being like, okay, now let me play it, and then let me make all these changes afterwards. That's my favorite part of the process. I love the playing part of it. But the game was going at the same time. It felt like it was moving too quickly, but then it was also dragging. Like, not like things were escalating quickly, but there wasn't a lot of action that was occurring in between it to necessitate how the game was like moving so fast. And so the biggest priority about that finalizing of the rules and everything was more focused on, can I build in these systems that help keep the pace if the keeper needs to set the tempo, or if the players need to take over the tempo a little bit as well too. And I wanted to have that give and take, and so that's why the day-night cycle came into play. And I was like, I don't think I really need a day-night cycle beforehand. I think that's something that can be done narratively with the keeper. I put a lot of trust in the GMs, because I myself, I'm a capable game master, and so I think that every game master is a capable game master, which is why you need to have an editor, and this is why you need to have people in the room, like, to tell you, oh, hey, by the way, you might need to explain this out for some folks, which is great. But I wanted there to be something within this day-night cycle, that it wasn't just the sun comes up and the sun goes down and everything. And so I wanted to make investigation harder during a nighttime. And so you get a disadvantage at nighttime during investigation. You're also more prone to being attacked by the vampires. I was inspired by Resident Evil, and I was inspired by Dead Rising, where these games where it's like, okay, the sun has gone down or time has passed, and so now there are tougher enemies around. I take a lot of inspiration from video games and everything like that. And so that was like a big part of it. And then there was the next part, was the corruption tracker. And I wanted to have this thing that the keeper could use. I just love the idea of somebody like not even rolling behind like a GM screen, but the act of a game master writing something down and then just going proceed. I love that idea. And so it's just, all it is this checkbox that tells you, once this is checked, this happens, do this in the next day phase. Or when they check this box, this happens. When you check this box, when this happens, then do this at this next phase. Like, it is always like a suggestion of like, here's something that you can do to heighten the horror. Here's something that you can do to make it feel like there is something that is pushing them, these detectives, to work harder. Not even just to work faster, but to work harder, do better. You are fucking up right now, do better. And so there are direct like things like side characters getting killed, and then side characters' graves being defiled. And then those side characters coming back the next night, and they're hungry, and they're really hungry. And once you invite them in, please let me in, I'm so hungry. And then you have another vampire on your hands. And like, all of it is about escalation until it's blown up and it's out of control. And so that was like a big point of that, was getting that pacing down, getting everything, like getting that timing down. And then once I had those two things in, and that like Brand and Daniel were like great help in like having me kind of visualize how to do this. And Carve from Brindlewood is very much like, it uses the PBTA 2D6 and 3D6, but then it has like its own mystery system, its own question, like answer a question, and then you have an opportunity if you answer correctly kind of system, paint the scenes, these other kind of tech that's in it that makes it different from other PBTA games. But then also, I know how much people love Forged in the Dark, and I love clocks, and I think clocks are underutilized or wrongly utilized in some games where people are just close on the mark of what a clock can do. And I felt like utilizing a clock, tying that into the CFB, it made perfect sense. And then having like a push and pull kind of system, a tug of war system between the keeper and the two players, that would, like, I like having narrative control swap back and forth. I like the talking stick to be passed around a lot, because I feel like you get a lot more exciting gameplay when the keeper's been really riding your ass for the past couple of sessions, and you finally have the opportunity to kind of have some narrative control. And so you're like, no, I'm going to take over, and I'm going to set some things right for myself. And I think it really plays with the themes of the game, not just on a narrative level, but in a mechanically, like a thematically important mechanical level. And I feel like thematic and mechanics are super important for games that are successful at what they're trying to do.
Yeah, well, especially with detective games, I think it's easier with a game that's just fighting, right? If it's like fighting vampires, that you can probably simulate that using the kinds of clocks, which we don't even think of as clocks anymore, built into initiative systems in any system, right? Whether it's OSR or more like a vampire, or more like you're doing something somehow more innovative, but you're still simulating that one side is going to attack the other, and they're going to inflict damage, even if, again, this is social damage or something mystical. But I think what's interesting with detective stories is you do kind of need there to be asymmetry and perpendicularity. If it feels very ABAB, like if it's very like predictable in any sense, whether you're winning or losing, it's boring. It's not detective fiction. Like, detective fiction is almost defined by the unpredictable. And
Yeah.
so I think it's cool to think about how can I use clocks for that. How can I use as you're saying, these story narrative mechanics? Stuff just
Hmm.
happens. It's ticked off a list, whatever. And then you also have that Brindlewood PBTA forged. Like you're rolling 2d6. You do have some stats, but it's
Hmm.
pretty rules light. So
Yeah.
it's kind of a mix of things, and it seems like a mix that's very intentional. And as you're saying,
Yeah.
it sounds like it's very well play tested. So um, I
And
love
there's
that.
there's a lot of like detective moves because like each character has a specific detective move that's named after a detective that's typically one that's willing to step outside of the lines to get the job done. That was a big inspiration for each of these moves, and so they're named after one. And so you'll have detective moves named after like Cole Phelps from LA Noire, the video game. And so like looking the part is just as important as doing the work, in your opinion. You have a collection of suits that make you stand out from the common folk you see around Bon Soleil, proving you're above them in status and wealth. Now, the inspiration from LA Noire is just that there's different outfits that you can wear in that game, and they do different things and everything like that. That's about as far as it goes. But I was like, that's an interesting detail that you can color your detective with. Is that, oh, looking good is just as important as doing your job well to you. Like it's even more important. So that can help you kind of inform your role play and everything like that. We even have there's one of some folks' favorite move that's happened so far is the Harrier Dubois move, which is from Disco Elysium. But you get to have an additional vice in the game. And so like there are things that you can have in the game that are called vices that you help navigate blowing off steam. And it's how you get rid of conditions in the game. And so it can be driving the back roads around it, or it can be chain smoking cigarettes, or getting into fights, or buying companionship, or something like that. Or it can just be being a corrupt cop is one of them. But this move, you get an extra vice. You get an extra vice that you can, so it gives you a little bit more variety in how you approach these vulnerable moves, these ways to get rid of conditions. But not only that, as long as you are engaging in one of your vices, you can do it by yourself. You don't need to have another character with you, because you get to create a imaginary friend of sorts that is like the image of what you think you are as a cop. And so it took that little bit from Disco Elysium. Like, what kind of cop are you? Are you superstar cop? Are you a fascist cop? Are you a hobo cop? Are you are you like that kind of thing? And I wanted to like play around with it. And so there's some that are a little bit more mundane, and there are some that are a little bit more esoteric, and they all play with different mechanics that happen in the game. So some of them might play with like the corruption tracker. Some of them might play more so with the clocks. Some of them might play with vulnerable moves. I wanted it to feel like I think that when you have a move based system where it's like, oh, you have different moves, what you're establishing is that there is a rule set, a rule system. These are the rules and everything. And then the moves are supposed to break those rules. And so they should do that, but then they should also serve a narrative purpose to help you
Yeah,
color your
yeah.
character and who you are and everything.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I completely agree. There's a couple questions in the chat I want to ask, but just to follow up on that last point, I think that's true of, to me, and again, why I say the grid system, even though it may seem very different, is essentially still based originally in PBTA because of
Mm-hmm.
that essential insight you just said, which is, look, if it's a kind of mundane, hard thing that doesn't fall in anything else, just roll the dice. You have
Mm-hmm.
stats and they're minimal, but like they're there. And if it's a specific thing that defines narratively why you are playing this game through this lens, this avatar, that is a move. Or we call them powers, just to be a little different.
Yeah.
And I like that moves. Actually, there's a weird catacresis that in original Apocalypse World, moves were both keeper moves, which are actually not moves, and then player
Mm-hmm.
moves. So I was like, okay, powers are powers, and
Yeah.
then move is like a sort of meta play thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I love that, and I think that like what you're getting at in the questions in the chat, which I will get to, are directly related to what you're saying, which is people already in their heads, even if you hate cops or you have some opinion about policing in the United States and beyond, you've watched probably a lot of. I've watched hundreds of hours of shitty detective stories. They're compelling, right? The whodunit is such a good form, and I say
Mm-hmm.
as a writer, it's just a fun like, wait, who did it? So I know, for example, a lot about Fox Mulder, a fictional, basically super cop, an FBI agent who is portrayed as a handsome, I don't care about anything but aliens. Like I'm not going to arrest anybody, mundane.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of like goofball. Even though in real life I don't necessarily want to hang out with like whoever Quantico has on like the super secret files, right?
Yeah.
So two questions from the chat just to sort of move in that direction. Is there a Dirk Gently and is there a Fox Mulder? And in general, sort of, can you tell us a little more, and we'll move off. Come on in for a moment, but
Yeah. So I can tell you that there's not a Fox Mulder move or a Dirk Gently move in the game yet. There were a lot of moves that I wrote and I removed from the game because I wanted there to be some room for like supplemental material. I also didn't want to take it because there was a point where I had a list of every single detective that has ever broken the rules in a piece of media to get the job done. And so I was like, what kind of move would associate with them? And I realized that we have stretch goal contributors that are going to be coming in, and they're going to be writing like their own moves. They're also going to be writing locations and people and everything like that. But there's also extra settings that we're taking into account. So the core game, come on in. It is the full complete experience. There will also be a supplemental zine that comes out with it if we get in the stretch goals and everything that are like the colder case files essentially. A little bit more undead, but there are going to be settings that play with the form of come on in. And so these are all going to be games it's going to use the basic come on in CFB kind of formula. There's going to be one game master and two players, but they are going to go to different regions, not just in America, but they're also going to go abroad to internationally. And we're going to look at different roles where there is a code of ethics you have to follow. And how do you uphold that? And there's one that's set in Texas. There's one that's going to be set in India. There's one that's going to be set in the Midwest. There's one that's going to be set like all over the place. We've got them all over the place. And you're not necessarily going to be playing as police officers every time. You might be playing as journalists, because you have the journalistic code of ethics. You have to follow that. You have to be an ethical journalist. Not all the time, though, if you want to make an extra buck or something. And so we're going to be playing with that. We're going to be playing with like forest park service rangers. We're going to be playing with paramedics. We're going to be playing with child services, maybe. Like that's one of these things where it's like, I want to let people talk about the corners of their world where there is something that might be an instrumental systemic problem that's happening, or there might be a specific role in society that is being attacked or it's being misused or maligned or something. And I want them to be able to talk about it, but there is a supernatural twist to it to make it pulpy. Because I love games that are like, there is a message to this and there is a theme, and but if you get it already, it's not going to feel overdone or overwrought. It's not going to feel like, yeah, I get it. I just want to play the game now. It's baked into it to the fact where it can make it an enjoyable experience, but is also going to leave you thinking about things. And
it adds that perpendicularity, that other element that you couldn't predict. So instead of the tension of like, am I a good or bad cop? It's like, oh wait, but also vampires I have to deal with. And so both things, it gives you two things to juggle. The cop thing or the paramedic thing or the child services. So I love that. You answered I actually did have a follow-up question about, can I set come on in outside of small town Louisiana? I love the setting, but I did have that thought right away about like New York, Bangkok, like where would, if I was writing a supplement, right? So now you got me excited as a writer. I want to write something for come on in. I want to tell stories using this framework. And I love the idea that you could say like, what about, emergency medical staff, and their relationships to the town they're in. And I also think it's interesting to use this whole discussion of what a cop is and the way their propaganda like makes them seem like beleaguered superheroes who are always 2 seconds away from doing the right thing, and then they just can't because I don't know, addiction to substances or whatever. But like, they sort of shy away from the systemic issues and make it personal. But I think that it's interesting because your game could take it, maybe I would imagine, in a direction of like, what if we just imagined a world where like cops had a different purpose or something. I don't know, maybe not in the original vampire version, but maybe there is like, again, that add-on of like, people always phrase that like, well, what happens if you did abolish this institution? What replaces it, right? So you'd have like, all right, well, the commune has vigilantes and there's still problems. Guess what? People are people. So anyway, I think it's a cool approach, and I'm excited to see the base game plus definitely these expansions that sort of take what you're doing here and then sort of apply it in other settings. we can come back to come on in, but I want to make sure we have some time to talk about Orbital Blues. This is Orbital Blues Month.
100%. Yeah.
And obviously, again, I'm going to support coming in. People should follow coming in. It'll be available, it sounds like, at Gen Con to at least engage with. So we'll all be there, actually. Wes, are you going to be at Gen Con in person?
I don't know yet. I don't know yet. Maybe, potentially. Who knows? I think I always get a weird feeling about Gen Con. I don't want to derail from Orbital Blues too much, but like, I don't know. Like the last time I was at Gen Con, it was just weird vibes. I don't know. It's weird vibes, and then it's a lot to do with modern day politics and everything.
Yeah,
and sorry to be dark woke on Maine and everything like that, but like, I feel more comfortable in cities where like there's an understood nightlife and there's like an understood like kind of like balance like between like there's a nightlife and then there's also like just like the city existing and then there's also this event happening and everything like that. And I severely felt like at this past Gen Con that I was being watched by police officers at all times, and they were always wanting to like have people like stormtroopers be like, move along. Like at one night they had like they were lined up and like pushing people out of the streets to go back to your hotels and everything. It was wild. It was which is a completely different vibe from PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia, which is like, you know, like it feels like it's a lot more natural and everything. And so I'm part of the camp that's like, let's just move Gen Con to Chicago. And everybody says you can't do it. And I think that they're fucking liars because they go, Chicago's too expensive. I'm like, have you ever been to downtown Indianapolis? It's way more expensive than Chicago, my friend.
Well, there's the weird postmodern like complete hollowness, like complete holographic nature of Gen Con also, that it's like we've brought in 80,000 nerds to a city that has no organic connection to this whatsoever to make money for this week. And so it feels more like Vegas, or I take it from a friend who worked at our museum there, Dubai. Like it feels like this is not at all sort of about Indianapolis at all. It just is. It could be anywhere. It could be it's a Truman Show backdrop, right? So I think that's weird before you even factor in the fascism scale. You know, the meter going up, the clock ticking toward midnight in the United States. So I hear you. I wasn't there last year. I was there 2 years ago. We were planning on going this year, but either way, Wes, it sounds like people can engage with Come On In, maybe in some form there.
I will hopefully be there. If I'm there, I will be running the game. If I'm there, I will be running the game, and I will be like signing like quick starts, and I'll be talking to people about it and everything. And hopefully I will be also running Formula Infiniti and stuff like that as well.
Well, let's talk about Formula Infiniti. If you don't make it to Gen Con, maybe you can come to Chicago. I'll go stay at my cousin's, and we can just hang out in Chicago. And just
that sounds great. Honestly, that sounds fun great.
To me, yeah. So in terms of other games that you may or may not be able to physically find Wes Franks outside of his coffin with his native soil in the summer, you have another new game. So you have two games kind of coming out. Very different, but both essentially, you know, in the OSR tradition, 2D6, and they're very much story-based games, right? So we've talked a lot about Come On In. Let's talk Orbital Blues Month. So Orbital Blues is about, you know, sad cowboys in space, and, you know, you have troubles and your identity is there and present, and you're able to kind of lean on troubles. You've taken this into a really fun genre, which is going around and around a circle really, really fast at science fictional speeds. Can you tell us a little about your conception for the game broadly? And I'm particularly curious, how do you, to that earlier point about pacing, like how do you make the pacing of a race feel fun for tabletop, right? When you're sitting around the table?
Yeah. So I'll kind of dive in. This was something that we unlocked because in the spirit of the theme of the book and everything, we've been going at breakneck speed, and by we I mean Andrew Bowman of Infinite Citadel, who originally I was code lead developing it with he and I, between the two of us, before I had a gnarly mental breakdown, and I had like a lot of like I was experiencing atomic levels of burnout, and I had a lot of life stuff happen where a lot of bills dropped on my front porch at the same time, and it was a lot of mess. And so luckily we've been able to swap the team around. But Andrew is leading up the visuals. I was tackling the main writing of the core rules and everything like that of what we're adding on to Orbital Blues. And we have a grade of other folks in this book. This book is a source book for Orbital Blues, which, like you said, Orbital Blues is about sad space cowboys doing jobs, running heists, getting into trouble, drinking, gambling, all that good stuff, and dealing with their feelings. And this takes that and it plucks it and it puts it on in the paddocks of space racing. F Infinity, or Formula Infinity, was inspired by a Lancer campaign that I ran. Where I was like, what if you took Lancer with all these mechs and everything like that? And then what if you took the world of Formula One racing that has to deal with mass sporting events and corporate sponsors and international politics and all this other, and like a lot of money around it? And what if you made them kiss? And I ran a campaign off of it, and it was really fun. We had a lot of great fun, and we never got to like truly finish it. And then we got to like the mech combat while also on a track. It was really interesting to play through because I was really seeing the limitations of I was seeing the expansive nature of my imagination and the limitations of the system that I was playing at that time, because it was not built to deal with racing. And I thought I could like tweak it a little bit. So we were made aware that Soul Muppet was doing this Orbital Blues Month, where they're doing multiple different crowdfunding projects. And we had a bunch of folks that were interested and wanted to participate, but we didn't have a lot of like people being like, well, I don't know if I have a solid idea or anything. And so I was like, well, why don't I take this campaign that I wrote, and what if I take it and expand it and bring some people in? And we bring racing to Orbital Blues. Racing has always been a part of my life. My family has been involved with it in one shape or form. Even with foster families that I lived with, they were involved with motocross or like off-road, like ATV racing and things. My uncle did road racing with a Mazda RX-7. He was part of the SCCA, the Southern Classic Car Association of America, and he is a mechanic. He's a rocket engineer. Like, he's a really smart guy. He's an asshole, but like, he loves racing and he loves cars. And I grew up around the smell of gasoline and paint. I learned how to like take a car apart and put it back together when I was way too young to be doing that sort of thing. I have scars on my hands from busting my knuckles on, like on all sorts of different car parts and everything. And so we got a team of folks together to help make this source book come to life that also had that kind of like upbringing or that familiarity with racing and the race world or cars in general. So this source book adds a completely new system, star system, I should say, to the world of Orbital Blues, which is originally in the Sutler system. This is the Senna system, SENNA system. It is a place where you will see the high-octane world of professional high-class Formula Grand Prix mixed with the dust and muck-covered low-class realm of stock car racing, and then everything that happens in between. We've got four four planets that are going to be coming with like the base book, and we might have more as supplemental stretch goals come along. One of them is written by myself. It's Middle Heaven. It's called Middle Heaven. It is a cyberpunk Las Vegas meets Singapore. It is a street race kind of capital place. It is essentially a planet that started from a satellite that had other things add on to it and just became a planet-sized object. And so it's all streets and gambling dens and nightclubs, and there are different places where different people live and that have different kind of atmospheres, and they have different approaches to racing, and there's different kinds of race culture. And one thing that kind of runs throughout the entirety of it is that inspired by Sicilian families at the turn of the century that were connected to organized crime, but they also had like Ferrari was connected to organized crime. Like, there was a lot of like Sicilian and Italian like car companies that were connected to this. And so I wanted to pay homage to that by having street racing and like racing be ingrained in this planet so much that there are different families that are different factions that control different parts of the system, and they all duke it out when racing against one another. Then we have Quinn Blackwell that has Sloth, which is a swamp planet that has like speedboat racing, like this hovercraft speedboat racing. It's got a really cool approach to skateboarding that is like really much influenced by this whole Swamp World's culture. We also have Adira Slatery doing a battlefield planet that has like, it is an old planet that got ravaged by like eons of battles. And so there are just unattended to mines floating around, and they're like, it is broken apart. There's like different like places that you can loop in and out of and everything. And then we have Lynn Kodega coming in and is bringing NASCAR to a black hole. So you're doing NASCAR stock racing around a black hole. And then, we've got Tony Vacinda doing stretch goals. We've got Ethan Yin doing stretch goals. We got a bunch of other people that we don't want to shout out too much because we want to keep it a nice secret. They're doing stretch goals, but each of these planets are going to have custom troubles, gambits. They're going to have adventure hooks. They are going to have vehicles. They're going to have enemies. They are going to have characters. They are going to have all these different things that make them specifically like them and feel tied to racing. We also have Dusty Hill and Quinn B. Rodriguez coming in and bringing in new character options. So these are different, just catch all different character options you can have during character creation of Orbital Blues that can help you feel more like a wrench jockey, or if you are a lone racer, or if you come from a family of racing, or if you're just a lone wolf, that kind of thing. And we're all tying them around a bespoke racing system that we've concocted to help represent races within the world of Orbital Blues. So essentially what we have done is we have determined that races have laps. We have figured this out, that races have laps. And so the amount of laps that a race has that you participate in a game of Orbital Blues with Formula Infiniti will determine it can be 4 laps, or it can be 8 laps, it can be 16. But the more laps there are, the more complicated the race is. And so essentially, we mentioned playing cards before. I love using playing cards, and gambling is a big part of Orbital Blues. You're doing gambits. You're putting it all on the line for something. And so I wanted to incorporate playing cards into that. So what you are going to do is you're going to do a Cairn-style circuit map with that amount of cards, and that is going to be your laps, that kind of thing. And each time there is a new lap, the card will be flipped on whoever flipped it, whatever player landed on that new lap, and there will be an action related to it. And that can be a hurdle, which are clubs, a fortune, which are diamonds, a favor, which are hearts, or a tragedy, which is spades. And like hurdles and fortunes are like minor obstacles and boons that can happen during the race. It can be that another race team is coming in to give you a hand at a curve. You're still your rival or whatever, but they're giving you a little bit of a leg up. Or it can be that there's an oil slick on the track. It can be ranging from that. And then you have favors and tragedies, which are more major things. Favors can be that you can have another member of your team take over the race from you. If you're rolling like shit, then you can go ahead and tag somebody else in. You can get a full car repair in the middle of the race if you need it, if you're desperately needing it, and it can come in clutch. But tragedies are things they're massive things you have to overcome in the game that could be your car completely being destroyed. How do you have to deal with that? Or it could be the fact that your team is getting arrested while you were racing. What do you have to it's different hurdles like that. And there's going to be some that are going to be specific to the planets, and there are going to be some more general ones with that. And to keep track of where people are at with these laps, we have developed a grid. That helps you determine your position in the race. There are going to be different levels. You'll have the lap leader, which means that you are at the top. You are in first place. Then you have second position, third position, fourth position, and then the back of the pack. And there are going to be benefits and negatives to every single position that you're in. If you're in the lap leader, well, of course you're going to win. You're going to win the thing, but everybody's gunning for you. And so that means that things are going to be thrown at you more often. People are going to be coming after you, bringing it down your neck. If you're in the back of the pack, you're not winning, you're losing. But the thing is, everybody else is in front of you. And so that means you can start utilizing their drift. You can go behind them, utilizing their slipstream to get around them. It means that they're not thinking about you. And so it kind of gives you a better strategic position. So you can have a blue shell moment from Mario Kart if need be. The game is very much, like you said, inspired. Like the source book itself is inspired a lot by like F-Zero, like you said. But I love car games. I love like car customization. Midnight Club 3 Dub Edition is the best car game that has ever been created in the world. And the fact that it is so hard to play, like I can play it on an emulator or anything like that. But the fact that Rockstar has abandoned their child, they abandoned their boy, Midnight Club, at the height of its power. And then I think it's a travesty. But yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. I also love hearing you talk because you can really hear the passion you have. Just like when we've talked about different aspects of culture that we're interested in. But
Mhm.
with racing, it's like it makes me think of like a whole star system that's obsessed with racing. It reminds me of any sort of sci-fi where you have that one really specific thing that culture is about, and you're like, I don't. This is not trying to be realistic. I'm not. This is not the social commentary. This is like the way
Yeah.
in. I always think of The Third Policeman by Flann O'Brien, which is such a funny book where all the cops only care about crimes related to bicycles, and they all sort of believe they are part bicycle. It's really weird, and like literally, they're always asking like, "Wait, did someone steal a bike though?" And it's like a murder, and they're like, "What?" No, we're talking about a murder. And they're like, oh, okay, well, but nobody stole a bike.
Yeah.
So I kind of want that to be the vibe of like everywhere you go in this whole star system, you're like doing your job. And they're like, okay, but are you going to go to the races, Because the races
Yeah.
are like culturally what everyone is kind of aligned, even if, okay, the life of the galaxy is sort of the same as somewhere else in the settler system. So super cool. You can hear the passion. I know that you do a lot of research. Like Come On In has all this research into police
Mhm.
ethics. I know the setting of your world. And here you have
Mhm.
this research coming from your whole life, it sounds like, into
Mhm.
cars. So I'm curious. I will be curious, and I'm sure other backers will too, to sort of read how this plays out in mechanics. I know people in the chat are saying similar things like this just sounds fun. It sounds like a fun way to do sci-fi racing, right? Like
Yeah.
everyone likes sci-fi racing, and I do think it's probably, in my mind, having done a little of this, I
Mhm.
admit I'm not a big like race fan. I'm much more to vampires,
Mhm.
but if you're rolling and just doing roll after roll, and it's
Mhm.
like I'm trying to get a high number, it does feel a little monotonous. So I definitely think that the idea of a track, this kind of
Mhm.
track crawl with cards and randomization along different themes, gives some nice texture. And I love the idea of drift and come from behind mechanics. So I'm curious to see how that plays out. Um,
A-
do you
Absolutely.
is
Yeah.
there anything else? We're headed to about an hour into the interview. Is there anything else you want to shout out about this particular project? I know we were talking before we started taping that yeah, you were just talking about some real aspects of burnout and kind of stepping away and coming back. And is there anything you want
Yeah.
to say about the process and where you're at today with like like we talked about different levels of ownership. Like is this my game? There's all these great collaborators.
Mhm.
What is the role I'm playing?
Yeah.
Any way you want to take that.
Well, I think it's really cool. I think it was this project has been like really eye opening to me on different levels and everything like that because I've experienced every single form of collaborative relationship in this project, and like the people that are on the project right now, like our artists are like busting out some really awesome work, not just for like the BackerKit page but for the book itself. We've got Tony Tran, as well as I think B is still in the chat there, dear friend B underscore uncubed. They are busting out not just artwork that looks great of like cars or these like jet space kind of like racing vehicles, but also like B has like busted out some really cool like evocative like shots of like there's this really cool art piece that is like it's like a photograph of like a crew or something like that is like it's like a race crew that's just standing there and it's a photograph, and it's just like really cool like moments of like quiet that happen in these race worlds. And I think like it's really cool to be able to work with people that understand the creative process, but they also understand real life. And the thing is, like Andrew and like Richard and like Heather, who is our editor, and Joan, who's taking care of project management, who came in like to take care of project management and get everything whipped up in time for us and everything. And like Tony has stepped up, and like a bunch of folks have like really stepped up when I took on a bunch of stuff that I was like, yeah, I absolutely can do this. And at the time, I could absolutely do this. And I think with like just like with every hurdle, every obstacle that I was experiencing, not my excitement for the project, but my ability. I could literally feel my ability like I was a sim. Like I could the P meter was filling, and I was hitting to like a critical mass point. And the swiftness and the understanding that the team took in like made me feel very confident in this project to the point where I was just like I don't need to comment on every single thing that's happening because I can trust their talent and I can also trust their eye, and I can also trust that there are other people that hold them accountable as artists, but not just like everybody's holding each other accountable and they're working with each other, and it's like really cool to see and witness and everything. And so it pushes me and inspires me to be like, well, yeah, I can get up and I can write today. I can do something, and I can contribute to this. When I was at a point where like in this game, process of like developing and like coming up with things and everything like that. And like that is also to say, like, I'm not the only person going through real life shit that's working on this game. There are other people that are going through massive amount of stress and like obstacles that I can't even think of, like I can't even fathom of overcoming them and going to my normal day job. And they're doing it, and they're sticking with this, and they're contributing to this, and they're staying on top of it. And so that really does truly inspire me that I need to like at least be honest about where I'm at and my capabilities and what I'm able to do at this point in time. And because they deserve that, because the team deserves that. They deserve to have somebody that communicates with them and says, I am so sorry, I cannot keep up with this. I have to make an adjustment. I have to have somebody step in and take over for me. And so like I had such an eye-opening experience with like my relationship with working and what I am capable of and what I should be capable of, and like the signs of like I need to stop. And I've also become aware of like in the past year more so of like in all the jobs that I've worked and people that I've met and things that I've seen and things that I've experienced of like all the facets of our industry, of the TTRPG industry that still need work. Like, and a lot of that is support for the creators. There's so much churn and burnout and like crunch that is happening on designers in every single place because they don't have a team, because they don't know that they should have a project manager. They don't know that they need to have somebody handling crowdfunding management while they're also developing and writing the book, because it might be their first time, or they just might not have like, and there are some people that do know, and there's some people that know a lot, but they work for companies where they're not allowed to share that information with other people because crowdfunding is the main form that these things get made. That is the way that these companies have money for certain things. There are some companies that are able to publish and produce massive amounts of stuff, and I'm saying stuff, that they have the backing and they have the necessary resources to do that. And then there are folks like y'all at Stillfleet. There's folks like me. And like you said earlier in the chat, there's this whole variety, this whole spectrum of people that have capabilities and different opportunities, and crowdfunding means something different to them. And I feel like what we have done with crowdfunding is something that's happening with generative AI right now, is that we saw something work one time and we rushed to support that and make that the only thing that makes sure that anything happens in this industry. And like, it's so disheartening to experience as like because like, I had dreams of like being a published writer. And like you read about like writers and their experiences where it's like, yeah, they got paid in advance, and like, and then they just got harassed to finish the book, and they kept on pushing deadlines and everything like that. But then they passed off the book, and the next thing they had to worry about was doing the book tour, where they were going to be doing signings and readings and everything like that. And so you hear about that and you're like, okay, well, there's going to be this entity, this company that takes care of everything else. Like, you don't have to worry about doing the cover. You don't have to worry about doing the layout. You don't have to worry about typeface. You don't have to worry about kerning. You don't have to worry about crowdfunding. You don't have to worry about like, what is the return on investment and when's the best time to press the big go live button, and what's the best, like, what kind of products you need to have, and should you have $1 pledge level tier or not. Like they don't tell you, like colleges don't prepare you for that when you take writing courses nowadays. There's also like we were talking off camera, there's no game design like degree. Right. There are like courses in like in New York, in like NYU, and then also in like Auburn University. There's places that talk about our TTRPG game design and like tabletop game design, but like there's not like a tried and true method to doing it. And so what we're experiencing, we're in the silent film era right now of this industry, where we're all doing things. We're all on sound stages or in the desert, or not even sound stages. We're all on stages in the desert, and we're all filming things at the same time. And we're trading out actors and like collaborators. And we have freelancers going around from here to here to here. And we're doing it sometimes for a handshake and a slap on the ass, oftentimes. And yeah. Yeah, sorry.
No. Please. I like the ass slapping and the we're on the stage, outside of LA before the reservoir situation, and It does feel like something we were talking about also was the pace at which social media changes. I think that applies across all these things, funding as well.
Hmm.
Everything has changed really rapidly. So
Yeah.
if you grew up, I'm in my early 40s and grew up with D&D, and for a long time there was friendly local
Yeah.
game stores. It didn't change that much. There were some
Yeah.
video games, whatever, related to RPGs. I mean,
Hmm.
there's Magic, but it all changed a lot with the OSR and with Kickstarter, and then it's just kept changing, right? Social media
Hmm.
changed, the political landscape here has changed, and now we're in World War III, and who knows? So I do think one of the problems is we were talking about, how would you even teach a course on something that
Yeah.
changes that fast? Because as soon as you're done with that sort of program, what you need to learn how to do is learn for yourself. And
Hmm.
how do you do that? I mean, partially it's again about building community and finding people you
Yeah.
trust, and you can help each other out. I love the idea of smaller companies and co-ops. I do want to shout out a podcast called This Wreckage, formerly Antifada, which is a great
Mm.
leftist podcast in New York City, and they cover labor. And they just had an episode on called Boss Fight on unions in games, and it was mostly
Yeah.
video games, but they did have the Tabletop Workers Union there in New York, and they just had some great insights about this and the size of company, what is a co-op. They really talked through how unionization looks in different industries, and they kept going back to cinema. Funny enough, Wes, which I know you know a
Mm.
lot about. It's like they were saying, look, there was an era when people said this is impossible. These jobs are made up fake jobs. It's not a real industry. It doesn't
Hmm.
make enough money. There's a couple big hits. There isn't really a pipeline. Do people want this?
Hmm.
The industry was in New Jersey because of Edison, right? And so unionization made Hollywood a thing, and it helped obviously those workers. And now we're sort of at the tail end, right, of Hollywood
Yeah.
being a thing, and it's all dying, going away. But I do think maybe our industry could maybe hit a point where enough people care about community-made
Hmm.
physical games, storytelling games, collaborative games, that they're willing to invest and help each other out. So I hope that we're at that moment, and it's a positive inflection point there.
I hate to say it because it'll probably happen out of the death of another industry, which is an industry that I love, which is video games. And it's because tech is so directly tied to video games. And now that we have Nvidia, we have the AI guru, CEO of Nvidia over here that's like saying that we've already achieved AGI or whatever the fuck that means, and everything. And so they're directly tying like all this technology to video games, to entertainment, to things that people enjoy and play over and over and over again. And so now it's getting to the point where you can't have one without the other. And the thing is, we're always going to have game designers that are making like you're going to have your Toby Foxes, you're going to have like your Bennett Foddies, like you're going to have like all these people that are going to make these like smaller, more indie games and everything like that. But the massive scale where we're seeing teams and everything like that dying, I think just today, Eidos Montreal had major layoffs and the head of the studio quit. And that's like Eidos is like they're like legendary. That's like Laura Croft stuff, and because they just got bought from, I think it's Tencent bought them or something, one of those major corporations that has subsidies and everything off of that. Everything bought it, scrapped it, sold it for parts and everything. So we are going to see a rise in like tabletop games and like these more like imagination based pen and paper style games, but it's going to be out of the death of another industry. And I hope that's not the case. I hope
Yeah,
that there's a way that we're able to consolidate, to stop whatever is happening,
yeah.
so that we can have our cake and eat it too one day eventually. I
Well,
hope.
and it's all timescales, right? Like I like to think,
Yeah.
not to be at all naive, but to be somewhat optimistic that we won't all die and we'll looks a little better, looks a little different on a shorter time scale, because a
Mhm.
lot of things smooth out and kind of people band together and support
Mm.
small and medium sized companies, and maybe the empire is broken apart a little, socialized a little. I don't think that's likely. I'm more pessimistic there. I think probably it'll be medium term. Maybe by the time I'm really old, truly,
Yeah.
knock on wood, that I get, that we'll live in a world where America is not this hegemonic far right, power, and that it hasn't globally, these firms, largely
Mhm.
driven by American capital, haven't sort of hollowed out so many industries, including all these cultural industries, and then we're left making these precarious, like, hobby, sort of gig precarious industries in the
Mhm.
shadows, in the interstices. So it's a little bit of a weird hope, but yeah, either sooner or later, I think we have to go in that direction.
Yeah.
Hopefully, the fewest number of people, right, are sort of harmed in the meantime. Um,
the I do
Yeah.
want to also touch on the whole the small teams and co-ops are the way to go and
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
everything. And I cannot say I cannot agree with that more than I already do. I'm giving the world's longest hell yeah boy, like the entire way for saying that. I have so many friends that have so many ideas. They have Google Drives that are filled with manuscripts, and they're like, but I'm bad at art and I don't know how to do layout design and everything like that. So it's just going to live like a text document. And that's all it's going to be. And they're like, and I don't have money to pay anybody. I don't have money to pay an artist what they're worth and everything like that. I don't have money to pay somebody $400 a page for artwork and everything like that, which is like artists that are getting paid $200 a page. It's like, Jesus Christ, like, how are they able to buy groceries? And then like 400, I should be able to pay them $1,000 a page. I shouldn't have to pay them anything. They should just be able to get what they need and make the art that they want to make and the art that they can make. Like that's the whole thing. I don't need money. I don't want money. The thing is, I need money. I don't want money. I don't want to have to deal with it. But like, finding people that you trust, that you can rely on, that you know that you have their back and they've got your back, and they are talented fucking people. This is why arts support within higher education is so important, because you get that critical collaborative experience of working with other people, other artists in the same enclosed, and then you also get to critique one another's work in a controlled environment and everything. And that's why stuff like that is so important, because you're able to find your collaborators. To go back to film, Sinners, Ryan Coogler, him and Ludwig Göransson were college roommates. Like the composer of Sinners and the director of Sinners were friends in college. And they went off into different directions. Ryan started doing directing movie, and then Ludwig was doing composing for Community, and was friends with Donald, and met Donald Glover through that, and started doing music for Atlanta and then Star Wars, and is now the new Hans Zimmer and everything like that, apparently. But that is a guy that Ryan called up and said, if there's a quirked up white boy goated with the sauce that can make a blues, hip hop, epic, vampire movie soundtrack, it's my boy Ludwig. And he's going to come through. And I know this because you need people in your life that are like that. You need a Ludwig that you can call up and you're like, I know if nobody's got me, Ludwig's got me for this one specific thing. And you can shake hands and you can say, are we going split skis on whatever we make from this? And they say, yeah. And because we're doing it for the love of the game, but we're also going split. And I understand you cannot feed your family off of the love of the game. And so that's where a lot of you need to be able to assess your capabilities. You need to be able to assess what you can handle and what you can take on and everything like that. And so you don't let people down and everything. And honestly, I think, everybody should try to do this once in their life. Everybody should try to crowdfund something once in their life. I think you more than anybody understands, because you don't know what kind of weirdness will come out of it. You don't know what kind of person you'll be out of it. It kind of shows you what you need in life, truly.
Yeah.
It's a weird thing to say that, yeah, I decided to co-lead develop a crowdfunding project and everything like that. And I realized I had to stare myself in the face to realize what I was capable of and what I needed to get done to be happy in my life.
Yeah, to your point, and to wrap up, and you have the final word here, of course. But I think leading a crowdfund involves not just developing a game, but as you said, project managing finances, doing the marketing, and depending on what you're offering and your scale. I mean, printing is a whole getting ready for print with a real printer, offset printer, is a big deal. Distribution, shipping is no joke, the final boss. I think that's we always say scheduling is the final boss for running games with your friends. Yeah. Shipping is the final boss, I think, for making stuff. We're pretty good at all the steps up to that, and that's where it's oh, well, why don't you just light all of your money on fire no matter what you did? It doesn't sort of matter. So I think there's a lot to learn. There's a lot to share. We've learned a lot from asking that. This came up with Sean Ireland from Triangle Agency, asking questions of your peers and finding the right way to kind of meet people and just be hey, this is what I'm trying to do. What does that sound like to you? Here's a question I have. I think these are all critical. And I do think, to your point, whether it's TTRPGs or something else, if you have an art within you, just trying to make it in this era, it's weirdly because it's so shitty, I think it's a little bit freeing. I find that more and more, at least. And it may be, I'm a little biased because the first one I did, it wasn't quite as shitty and it went okay. And now that it's really shitty, it's like, oh, well, it doesn't matter even. It's just let's have fun. But I do think there's something freeing with art where you're like, you know what, I'm going to work with the people I trust. Like you said, I'm going to have a vision, a standpoint. We have to make money because we want to pay people so that they can pay their rent. But we have no pretense that this is going to be millionaire territory, right? So it allows you to sort of, yeah, it's a business, and we're going to try to run it as well as we can, but also like we have no backing, we have no training. So it is precarious, and it is sort of dangerous in that sense. Like you could screw up, but also kind of like, well, whatever. I mean, you could, you could screw up. Your day job could be automated away at any moment for any of us, right? Or truly. As you say, you could work in, you could be a restaurateur, and like, good luck with that. There's a lot of other shitty, like
in a dying industry. You want to talk about a dying industry, like restaurateurs and everything like that. Like opening a restaurant is a death sentence. It is like, it's like truly, it's like 1 out of 10 make it. So like,
Well, I want to have you back on. So I actually that was one of the first things I wrote in my notebook thinking about it tonight, Wes, was I have a few series I want to do, but one series I want to do is on food and games. And I really wanted to have you on to discuss, I just personally, that's like my big other passion besides games is agriculture and food. So I'd love to sort of think about those two things together. And I've talked a bit about this with like Jen De La Vega and a couple other folks, but it'd be fun to sort of do a series on that. So that's just a little bookmark. Wes Franks, I've taken up a ton of your time. I want to give you the last word. Tell people where they can find you. I'll post all the links and such. But what else do you want to leave us with tonight? Any final thoughts, shout outs, beyond, of course, everyone supporting Come On In when it goes live. You follow that. And right now, about to go live, I think tomorrow or the next day. It's tomorrow?
It's tomorrow. Yeah, I believe it is either. It's April 1st. So the thing about Formula Infiniti Orbital Blues Month, all of these projects, and it's not just us. We also have, like you said, Josh Demansky. You had him on Unenthuser, and Chris Airlew on for Paramore, which is an adventure. You've also got A Fistful of Stars. You've got Soul Muppets, Outlaws, and Corporations. So they have their own source book they're adding to Orbital Blues. Graham Turner, you've also got the Lone Archivist and everything. Like there's a whole group of folks that are doing this Orbital Blues Month. It's the first one. And so, April 1st, not 10 a.m. It's going to be April 1st, 10 a.m. Pacific, which I believe is 2 p.m.
Yes, maths. Yes.
2 p.m. That's the thing. A big thing that a little bit of advice I'll also give you is if you want to be successful in this industry, have a friend that's really good at maths. Have a friend that's really good at accounting and maths and is smart with money, and you want to grab them and say, "You're our accountant now, and we're gonna to the moon. We're gonna go all the way." So you can go ahead and check that out. And honestly, throw your money at all the projects. They're all really cool. Some really cool designers, and I want more people to play Orbital Blues. It's a really fun system, and I think it's a really interesting approach to like the space cowboy narrative, especially when there's like a Cowboy Bebop game out there, and I am so middling on adaptation of like IP games because they're either really good or they're really bad. So I'll get back to you on that one. Also, currently, right now on Kickstarter, there is the public access Kickstarter that is happening. It is a Carved from Brittlewood system from the Gauntlet. It is analog horror that takes place in 2004 New Mexico. You play a group of people that are trying to solve a mystery about a missing TV station. It is very Candle Cove, Marble Hornets, all that good stuff. We are currently less than $300 from hitting my stretch goal, which is, you want to talk about food and games. I wrote a Lost Transmission, which is a little side quest that you can do in this game, public access. So it's like it takes you back into the past or into the future or someplace in this area in New Mexico. And mine is called The Chef's Table, and it is inspired by the menu. So you play a group of people that are trapped in a restaurant where the chef is wanting to kill all of you by the end of the night. And you have to figure out his story through the menu. You craft the ingredients and the dishes yourself altogether. And then I guess also at 5,000 backers, Kieran Gillen also does something really cool, and that's great. There's other fantastic writers on that. So
Leeks and onions, Wes. Leeks
and onions. What
is this bullshit?
I know. And what is this bullshit? Tyler's bullshit. I love food. Let's absolutely go and talk about food and gaming and tabletop gaming. I think that'd be so fun. But yeah, also you can follow me on Blue Sky at carrion-comfort.com. That's my website. You can see all the shit that I've done before. I'm slowly updating that list. Things are coming out more and more. If you want to help directly support me, you can hit up my Ko-fi shop, which has all of my games on it. I also have stuff on itch, but itch is itch. So you can hit up my Ko-fi shop. There's links all on my website. Just go to carrion-comfort.com and it can take you everywhere. And also my latest release with the Gauntlet, Dead Pilled. You can find that on DriveThruRPG. And if you want to play a game that's inspired by bodies, and Scream, and you want to massacre the Manosphere, then you can go ahead and play that. But yeah, that's me. Thanks so much for the time. Thanks so much for the opportunity.
Yeah, no, of course, Wes, we love having you on. We will have you back on again. And in the meantime, we're all going to go back Infiniti and figure out this whole menu situation with public access, which I believe we'll get there. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, everyone in the chat. I think some of your homies, your collaborators have been in the chat. I really appreciate that.
Absolutely. They're awesome folks. Yeah. And absolutely go give them a follow too. Check out what Andrew Bowman's doing with the Infinite Citadel. Go check out B. B's doing great art and is all full on board. I knew I had to bring somebody that loved Lancer in to do a lot of the artwork here. Tony Tran has been killing it and making like some great artifacting stuff. So go follow Tony Tran. Go follow all of our writers. You can go ahead and see them when we go live and everything. Go ahead and give us some support. Oh, yeah, and we got Over the Hill. So yeah, we got the chef's table. Thanks everybody. Thank you. Thank you. So thank you. Appreciate it. I got published. Thank you.
Well, we'll have to have your collaborators on as well. Again, at some point, the other final boss is just time. So thanks so much, Wes, for making time yourself. I always appreciate you, and I really hope you and I can collaborate beyond passing, exchanges on PoE's server and these sort of press engagements. But let's make some fucking games sometime.
Absolutely.
I'm around.
Also, congratulations, by the way, on Solaris and with WBN and and everything. Yeah,
we're very excited. We're working on Stillfleet 2 right now. So again, whenever you're listening to this, it'll still be the case. We're hoping to relaunch it next year. And in the meantime, Worlds Beyond Number is playing Stillfleet as it is in the core rulebook. It's now on Alchemy as well, VTT. So the original game, it's really fun. We just wrapped a 1.5 year long community campaign, this Wes Marsch's game, in this infinitely long tube of black straw that aliens made in space that no one can figure out why they made it. And lots of civilizations have gone there, and there's sort of reefs that wreck ships. And it was a crazy player-driven campaign where we did everything. We do some unseens from Through the Void, sort of Brindlewood style.
Nice.
Had them play like sort of the other people on the space station this company's made to investigate it. And at the end, it turned into basically an extra dimensional, horrible future, nanotech sorcerer had sort of is filled it with basically meat, and they're in sort of the body of a dead god now, in a spaceship flying around. So it's Star Trek Voyager meets like the grossest, weirdest ending. So I'm really proud of sort of not only where like what I did with the original game, but where our players have gone, our player GMs, and where obviously it's super fun to hear folks like Worlds Beyond, all streamers. So shout out to everyone who's really thoughtfully playing games, whether it is on a stream or just with your buds. But it is cool to be able to like watch it myself because, I don't have time to play it all the time. So it's nice to watch other people and listen while I'm doing dishes or whatever and be like, oh shit, that's sick. That's a great idea.
That's such a wild feeling. It's such to see somebody play your game that you wrote and live and everything. I'll never get over it. So yeah.
Yeah, it really is a mark. So similar to finding good contributors, it's another mark of kind of, how the community, we can support each other's, play each other's games and get excited about them. So with that, I'm excited to play Come On In and Infiniti. And Wes, I will hold you to, I want you to play Come On In. I want us to do a stream of that at some point when it is appropriate. We'll talk.
We'll absolutely do it. Yeah.
Thanks to anyone listening while we roll. This has been a special edition for Orbital Blues Month, which is about to start whenever you hear this. So go check it out. I'm clicking the button.